always been obsessed with abandoned places. There's something about walking through forgotten history, seeing rust and decay reclaim what humans left behind. For 3 years, my best friend Marcus and I explored every condemned building
miles of home. We had our rules: never go alone, always tell someone where we're going, and get out before dark. But the old Clearwater Mine? That place made us break every single one. It started as just another Saturday adventure. The Clearwater had been closed since 1987 after a partial collapse killed 2 workers. Locals said it ran nearly half a mile.
After a partial collapse killed 2 workers. Locals said it ran nearly half a mile into the mountain, with shafts dropping hundreds of feet into the earth. Marcus found the coordinates on an Urbex forum, and we couldn't resist. We parked at the trailhead just after noon, hiked 20 minutes through overgrown forest, and there it was, a gaping mouth of timber and stone, half hidden by vines. The entrance was bigger than I expected. Cool air rushed out, carrying that smell of wet stone and rust. Our headlamps cut through the darkness as we stepped inside, boots crunching on gravel and broken glass. The main tunnel was wide enough to drive a truck through, with rusted rail tracks running down the center. Graffiti covered the walls near the entrance, the usual tags and crude drawings, but it stopped abruptly about 50 feet in. Like people were afraid to go deeper. We walked for maybe 10 minutes, documenting everything. Old lunch pails, a hard hat with the company logo still visible, a section where the ceiling timbers had buckled but held. Normal stuff. Then Marcus grabbed my arm and pointed his light down a side passage. "Dude, look."
Maybe that day. "Hello?" Marcus called out. His voice echoed for what felt like forever, but no one answered. We should have left then. Instead, we kept going, and that's when the mine started changing. The tunnel began sloping downward, the air growing colder with each step. Then we saw the second lantern, and a third. They formed a trail, leading us deeper, like breadcrumbs into the dark. I told Marcus this was wrong, that someone was messing with us, but he was already following the lights. The rational part of my brain said it was probably just another explorer, maybe someone who got lost and marked their path. But explorers don't leave expensive equipment behind, and they don't arrange lanterns in a perfect line descending into the deepest part of a condemned mine. That's when we heard it. A sound like metal scraping against stone, echoing from somewhere far below. Then another sound rhythmic, almost like footsteps, but wrong. Too many of them, not quite in sync. Shush. Marcus stopped walking. His light was shaking. We need to go back. But as we turned around, we saw something that made my blood freeze. Behind us, in the tunnel we just walked through, the lanterns we passed were going out, one by one. Click. Click. The darkness was swallowing the path back to the surface. And then, from the deep, we saw new lights, the path back to the surface. And then, from the deep, we saw new lights. Not the steady glow of LEDs, these were different. Pale blue, flickering, moving. They bobbed and weaved like they were being carried, but there was no sound of footsteps anymore. Just silence, and those impossible lights rising from the depths. We ran. I don't remember making the decision. Our bodies just moved. Our headlamps bounced wildly as we sprinted up the slope. Gasping in the thin, dust-choked air. Behind us, I could hear something. Not machinery. Not footsteps. Not machinery. Something else. A sound like breathing, but massive, like the mine itself had lungs. The lights behind us were getting closer. I made the mistake of looking back, and I saw them clearly for just a second. They weren't lanterns. They were too organic, pulsing like bioluminescence, and they moved in impossible ways through walls, across the ceiling, converging. Marcus screamed something I couldn't understand. We burst through a junction, and suddenly I didn't recognize where we were. The graffiti was gone. The tunnel looked older, the timbers more rotted. We'd taken a wrong turn, or the mine had changed, and those lights were right behind us. Then I saw a sliver of gray daylight ahead. We'd somehow looped back to an entrance, maybe a ventilation shaft. We didn't care. We scrambled over rocks and debris, squeezed through a gap barely wide enough for our bodies, and tumbled out into the forest. We ran until we reached the cart, threw our gear in the trunk, and drove. Marcus called the ranger station from the road, reported the lantern station from the road, reported the lanterns and strange activity. They said they'd check it out, but when we followed up 2 days later, they told us they'd found nothing. No lanterns. No lights. The mine was empty. But here's the thing that still keeps me up at night. When we got home and checked our footage, our cameras had been running the entire time. 43 minutes of video. And in every single frame where those blue lights appeared, the timestamp glitched, jumping forward, then backward. Like time itself was breaking down there in the deep. I haven't done urban exploration since. Marcus moved to another state. And sometimes, late at night, I think about those lights and what they might have been. Bioluminescent fungi? Gas hallucinations? or something that's been down there since long before humans dug into that mountain? If you've ever seen lights in places they shouldn't be underground, in the deep woods, anywhere the world feels too old, drop a comment. Because I need to know we're not the
Luminescent fungi, gas hallucinations, or something that's been down there since long before humans dug into that mountain. If you've ever seen lights in places they shouldn't be underground, in the deep woods, anywhere the world feels too old, drop a comment. Because I need to know we're not the only ones. And whatever you do, don't follow the lights.